Hi, this is Elgin Subway Surfer Bowling, your creative caricature marketing consultant. Please check me out on the web at www.subwaysurfer.blogspot.com, or you can go to www.caricaturesforyou2.blogspot.com. That's caricatures, the number 4, the letter U, the number 2.blogspot.com. And yes, I do realize I sound like a radio announcer because I practiced this. Okay, I'm going to give you another caricature quick tip. And you're probably saying another, well, this is the first time I'm seeing you give this. Well, I have given audio tips that you can go to my blog and listen to some of those. But I thought, well, let me just let you see me in the flesh, kind of, sort of. Today, I want to talk about one of the most important things, but often neglected by caricature artists, comic book artists especially. And it's this. One moment. That's a line. Drawing the line. Line quality. Line quality is one of the most important things that a caricature artist has to learn. And the reason for that is your lines have to look beautiful. They have to look interesting. Even if a person doesn't understand caricature art, comic book art per se, even if they're not an artist, if your line quality is kind of the same looking, your pictures are going to lack a certain amount of power, fluidity, just plain old personality. They're going to look boring, and the person is not going to know why, okay? But the reason is going to be line quality. I remember when I was doing art a couple of years ago, I met a comic book artist and writer, Ryan Reese, who told me that my art looked pretty boring, which was a strange thing for me to hear, because I was always used to someone congratulating me on how my art looked. Ryan gave me a series of exercises and told me, if you practice these exercises every day without fail, then your line quality is going to improve. It's going to show up in your work. Your work is going to have a lot more fluidity, a lot more power, and, well, it's just going to look prettier. Okay, so I started doing these line quality exercises every day, and 20 years later, I'm known for my line quality first by other artists. So I want to show you a few exercises that you should be doing every day. If you looked at a previous video on line quality, I told you about the various markers that we can use. The Tombow being one of my favorite ones, Tombow brush pen. But one of my favorites also is the Fat Crayola marker. And it's because it has this nice conical tip. So I'm going to demonstrate some line quality exercises that I feel you should do every day. If my cameraman will follow me, keep your eye on the pen, folks. Keep your eye on the pen, okay? Not the head, the pen. First exercise that we want to do is going from thin to thick, okay? So we make a line like real thin like this, then we go thick like this. Thin to thick, okay? And you vary the pressure of your hand. Now that line is, well, thin to thick to thin. Okay, we can go from thick to thin, or from thick to thin to thick. Okay? So we have thin, thin to thick, thin to thick to thin, thick to thin, and then thin to thick to thin to thick. Now, these seem like just kind of crazy kind of exercises, and you ask yourself, well, how is this exercise, really going to help my drawing? Well, I'm going to show you that in a moment, but I'm going to show you some more exercises that you should do also. Okay? This other one is called grass. Okay? Just take the pen and you just kind of, as fast as you can go, in one direction, you just make these marks. Okay? Then you go in the other direction. Fast as you can go. As close together as you can go. Okay, now it's starting to kind of shift. That'll happen. You just kind of make these lines like this. Fast as you can go. Think of these exercises as kind of like push-ups. What you're training your hand to do, you're training your hand to move fast, because these movements is what's going to be responsible for you making things like, let's say, an eye. Notice the variety of line quality. Okay? Okay, now if we want to make the eyebrow, remember that brush, remember that exercise where we're kind of doing the grass? There it is right there. Okay? And all of that comes out of the line quality exercise. Okay? Remember the thin to thick, like this? Well, that's another eye, that's an eyebrow. First part of the eye. Here. Okay? Another kind of eye. Okay? One more time. Okay? Another exercise. We're going from thick to thin. See that? Okay, now with this eye, we're going to go up. I think we'll make a black eye just this time. Now, all of this comes out of the line quality. Now, I didn't want, actually, this is going to be, kind of a bonus kind of lesson, because it also teaches you something about the eye. Usually when you're drawing eyes do three things. Either they're going to go straight across, straight down, or they're going to curve slightly up, like that. That's just a bonus lesson. I just happened to see that. But we are talking about line quality, so I don't want to, confuse you. Line quality is important because when you're drawing a face, I'm just going to make up a face on the spot here. In order to make it interesting, you want to vary the line quality. You want to, and you might ask, well, how do I know to draw thick lines, to draw thin lines, to draw fat lines, to draw skinny lines? Well, after you do the exercise for a while, it's just going to come. And the reason why you want to make a distinction between thin lines and thick lines is that you just want to give the eyes somewhere to kind of rest. You want to, at all costs, get rid of that, I call that coloring book look. You want to get rid of that look. And you want to make the drawing visually interesting. Like I said, even if a person is not an artist, they're going to kind of notice things like this and not really know why your drawing looks more interesting than somebody else's who doesn't do this. Now, when kids have coloring books, they usually have all of the lines looking the same. Well, I guess maybe it's because I don't know, maybe it just freaks children out to see that kind of variety, and you're trying to teach them, consistency. Who knows why it is, I just felt that I had to keep talking because I'm on video. Anyway, this is like a sample drawing, and as you can see, various lines. We're going from thin to thick, from thick to thin. But let me show you last on an actual assignment that I had to do for a client, just so you can see the difference. And you need to pay attention because it's very subtle, but it's there. Let's zoom in on this one first. Now, if you notice this drawing here, it's a good drawing, good drawing, solid. The lines are pretty much all of the same. Got a little smudge there, but we can clean that up with the scanner. But the drawing is pretty much, looks like a drawing. Hip-hop guy, sunglasses, blah, blah, blah. But there's no variation of line quality. Now, for something like this, if you're doing animation, you really do want to have the line quality consistent. It's just easier to draw from frame to frame. But if you're doing a caricature or something like that, or maybe doing this as a comic, it gets kind of boring to your eye. It puts you to sleep. Now contrast that. Same drawing, placed again, with this. As you can see, there's more happening. Even though they're both standing still, this one seems a little more alive. Okay? Because if you're noticing the drawing, we're going from the thin to thick, from thick to thin. We're varying the line quality and the line pressure, and the picture just visually looks a lot more alive. And that's really important when you're starting to draw. You want your figures, even if they're standing still, you want them to look like they're either about to move or that they just moved, okay? And if you look at, if you can, I don't know if my cameraman can get this, if you look at the drawings kind of side by side, you know, here, you can kind of see the difference. And like I said, it's subtle, okay? Like I said, nothing wrong with this drawing right here on the left, nothing wrong with it at all, you know, but there's, because of the variation in tone and in line quality, it just has a different feel than the other drawing. And that's what you want to do, to have your drawings become more alive and to have them become more exciting. So, let's back up the camera. That's a little too intense for the people at home. I'm not that good looking. Well, maybe a little good looking, but so that's what you guys want to do. You want to do these line quality exercises. They're very important. They will make your drawings look a lot better. I suggest, if you're doing them at first, just to save yourself some money, practice with the Crayola markers, okay? I mean, these things, you can buy them from Staples. They cost, what? Sometimes you get a nice sale, it costs $2. You know, you can just go crazy when you're starting to learn. You know, when you get to be more advanced, you know, then start experimenting with the Tombos. The reason why I'm saying you experiment with the Crayolas first, this costs $2 a box, maybe sometimes $4. This marker costs $3. You don't want to be tearing up your $3 markers just to practice line quality. You know, but practice it every day, you know, and sooner or later you will see a vast improvement in your work. That's a quick caricature tip from the Subway Surfer, and what are you watching the video for? Go ahead and practice.